Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and we're going to be doing another one of these libraries. I'm going to be doing MercedUI, which is sort of my key, or my sort of my main library that I've made with web components, and we're going to build a front end with that. Again, this is my page of libraries. I did add Merced Reactor. Merced Reactor is just basically my version of Create React app if you want to create your own React app. So it's a slim template, great if you're just looking for a quick to spin up something quick to play with and practice React. That's not quite as top heavy as Create React app, and you can just run that command. Just show you guys right now. It's just npx Merced Reactor. Then you put in the name of your project, so your project, and then you put in either JS or TS, depending whether you want a TypeScript template or a JavaScript template. And then it will clone the appropriate template. You run an npm install, and then you're off to the races. So give it a shot. Now with that, we're going to be using MercedUI, and then I did, if you watched the video before this, where I did this with the basic element library, you notice that I ran into an issue where I didn't have an easy way to add an event listener after the state updates, because I had no sort of way to trigger an event repeatedly after every render. And since every render replaced the component, like the component re-rendered, all the event listeners went away. So I figured it out and we did a thing. But what I did do is I added, and I did this to all these libraries, so all these component libraries now have this, is what's called a post build or post render function. It's just another function that you can define that occurs after render. So basically, you have your normal, so you'll see it used here in MercedUI when I do today's thing. But I have added that to basic element as well. So that way, if you wanted to have that function that kind of adds all those event listeners after each render, there is a way to do that. There is a function called post build that you can define in your class that will do that. Okay. Okay, so let's do it. So let me go to my VS Code. Okay. Let me close all this stuff up. Actually, this is all source code. This is what I was working on earlier, adding that post build function. It should be all updated on npm, updated on GitHub. With, and then the docs have all the links for the script tags, or if you want to use it as a module, or if you want to use it as an npm module, all the versions are there. So the 3 versions of each one. So that was a lot of editing. But let's get out of this. And let's go back to here. Makes me wonder if that server, I don't think I ever did close down that server, so I might have that just magically running in the background somewhere. We'll find out in a moment. So first I need to go run the server, so we have the server is giving us serving our API that we created in the first video in the series. So let me open backend and terminal. While that does that, we're going to make another folder here. New folder. Okay, MercedUI frontend. Okay, so here we are in the back end. Let me just nps node server.js. Make sure I don't get like a address in use error. Yep, perfect. Okay. So that is working, and now let's open, well, I don't need another tab. So MercedUI, we're just going to create 2 files, because again, I can just use this with a script tag. Pretty easy peasy. So we're going to create an app.js. Okay, lots of things it wants me to do. Okay, so new file, index.html. Right click this, new file, index.html. So just kind of like in the last couple videos where we're working with web components, it's just going to basically be this. I do an HTML boilerplate. Well, yep, there we go. Okay, then I'm just going to do a script tag. For our app.js, and then add a defer keyword. Then I want to add another script tag, and also might as well add the defer keyword there as well. Let's do a save all, and let's head back over here, open up MercedUI. Let me head over to the GitHub repo. And there's actually a lot of cool stuff in this library of mine that I'm not going to get into. So like I have just a class called site builder, so that way if you don't need necessarily HTML elements, you just want a class that'll allow you to just have some reactive rendering. There's that. There's form tool, which is actually really cool. This will, you literally just attach it to a form. It just pulls in a form, and it'll just kind of spit you out all the data from that form as an object. So you don't have to kind of type in all the code and all the handle change functions and all that stuff. Merced element, which is the base class that we will be working with. This will probably be the only thing we'll really be working with today. Okay, Merced element. Let's see here. There is getQueryHash, which is a function that just grabs the queries and hashes from a URL pretty easily. There's MUI request, which is just another way of making an API call. It's just basically an abstraction over fetch to make fetch easier, because it skips, well, basically takes care of that intermediate step of turning the response into JSON. There's a make component, which is a function that generates a web component, so that way you don't have to remember to register the browser, but it creates a very static component. If you want to make a reactive component, there's a make live component, which will allow you to do that. Capture props is a function that will capture the props from the tag for the web component, or really any targeted tag that you want. It'll just grab the props, put them in an object for you. Global store. This creates sort of a Redux-like global state that you can work with. That'll then trigger the re-rendering of any of the kind of elements, reactive elements in this library. Although I have something like this built into other places. This is just if you want to create like a reducer function. Map DOM. This is a way to map over an array to the DOM. And so it'll generate a template and iterate over an array and generate the template you pass in to the DOM. This is the same thing, bind data, except it's reactive. So if you want to re-render it as the data changes, it'll do that without creating a whole component. You're just saying, hey, I want this, when this array changes, I want you to re-render these LIs. Rotator, this is kind of a very sort of primitive router that allows you to rotate through different instances of the stuff above. Map to string, same idea, just maps. Instead of mapping to the DOM, it maps to a template string, so that way you can use that template string in your template. And then there's simple component, which is another base class. Oh, actually, it's a function that'll generate the web component for you, kind of like the other ones. It just has some extra stuff, and it's a little bit cleaner, because the other two, what I did is that I used the eval function to kind of play Mad Libs with the boilerplate, and it works, but sometimes you run into issues with how you write your template strings. This is a lot cleaner. And then what else? Quick component, same deal. This is just another sort of tighter version of a function that creates a web component. Okay, then this is just basically like jQuery built into this whole library, where it's just a nice abbreviated way to use a lot of the dumb functions, which I probably won't use in this video. And then there's also a router, mini router library. It works just like React Router for the most part that you can use here. Actually, that's exactly what I use in that library page. So when you head over to Alex Merced Coder JSLib, this is actually using MercedUI. I think this is using the quick component function to generate this. Each of these is a component, and then this is all being triggered by the Merced router, making it pretty straightforward to put this together. Okay, so now that we got all that laid out, let me just go get that script tag, or the URL for the script tag. It should be right here at the top. Okay, link. That's what I want. Cool, save. And then again, we're going to do the whole thing in one component, app to do. Okay, save. And that's pretty much all we need to do in the HTML file. The rest we'll do over here. And let's go take a look at the docs for Merced element. Merced element should be right over here. Okay. And first we'll just set up the basics. So it's basically, again, a base class based on the HTML element base class. So class app to do extends Merced element. Okay. You still gotta, and then I also built in basically built out a small abstraction over custom elements.define, because sometimes that can be hard to remember. So Merced element.make tag, it's the same function, it's just an alias as a static function to make it easier to remember. So let's just get that one out of the way. Merced element.make tag app to do, and it's based on this app to do class. Cool. And basically this all works based on the constructor, so we have to kind of at minimum do the constructor here. And here I do pass stuff into the parent constructor. Okay, so what you're going to do here is you're going to pass in a object with a bunch of different things. Okay, or actually several. Yeah, you have to pass in multiple arguments. So the easiest way to do this is actually I'm going to define these functions up top, and you basically define three things: your builder. Your builder is just your function that renders your template. Const builder equals. Okay, and then again, your builder function always gets passed in state and props, so you got to make sure you pass that in. And for now, we'll keep it real simple. Return a template string of hello world. Okay. Then we have to define our initial state. Which is going to equal an object, and again the same thing, to-dos, so just like the previous iterations over this, to-dos and input. Okay, and then third, you could, if you want, is you could do like a reducer function, which I'm not going to pass in. So essentially, I'll pass into the super the builder function, and I will pass in the initial state. Cool. Let's see, is there anything else I need to do at minimum? Okay. Cool. So if I hit save, I think we're at the point where we should be able to see hello world on the string. We register with the DOM. Here's the element. Here are my base functions. Good. And now we should be able to do this. Open with live server. And there, we got hello world. Cool. So essentially you can just work out of your builder function. Okay, and then there's a post build function that you could define over here. So that's, we're gonna need that later on, so I might as well bring that up now. Post build. That also takes in stay and props. And we'll use that for our event listeners. But always the first thing we want to do is bring in, go grab the API data. Okay, so we're going to do that first. And again, this is a web component, so just like any other web component, we're going to use connected callback. So in connected callback, we are going to go fetch HTTP /localhost 4000, and then we have a .then response is response.json. Then we take the JSON data we just got back, and we'll do stuff with it. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to do is I'm going to use this .set state. Okay, and we're going to set state, pass in the new state, which will just be anything and then this should merge. So I should have it where it merges the old and new state, so that way you don't have to recreate the whole state. So it should just have to do this, to-dos equals JSON. Cool. So that should do that. Let me just make sure that that's set state and not something else, because it might be something else. Set state, instance methods, build, set state, good, new state, updates components and state runs build. Good. Been a while. Okay, because I think I built this back in February or January this year. I'm sure the commits would give you more detail. Let's see here. I want to go back to here. Let's go back here. So what I want to do now is just create my list of to-dos. So const to-do list equals state, because again the state's being passed in, so state.todos.map, and again we're going to get each individual to do, and each to do is going to return a string, which is just an h2. Again, I'm using backtick, so I can use interpolation with the to do interpolated in the middle /h2. Okay, and again that's going to give me an array of strings. I don't want an array of strings because they'll get commas in between everything and that'll look funny. So to fix that, I just join the strings together, do that, and that'll just make this one big string of a bunch of h2s, which I can then interject here. So I can change this to do app, and then we can interpolate. We can interject to-do list. And just to show you how props works, what I'm gonna do, we'll do this. Props dot title. Okay, and then we'll add a prop here. So we'll say title equals to do app. Save. Save. So this should be, may have some work to do on the API call, so let's see here. Reference state is not defined. On what line? .305. Make tag. App.js 30. That's where we'll start from 30. Let's do app to do. Let me see here. State props. I probably did the constructor wrong because I totally use my own library because it's been a while. But let me go back and read the docs. I think. Let's see here. I did pass second argument. Maybe I should just look at the source code. That would be helpful. Merced. Here we go. Super builder state reducer. Yeah, it's fine. And what line was it pointing out to? We were looking at line, it's saying 305. So let's go back to 305, which is right here. Ow, this has to do with the post build that I just added. Boo! The edit that I just made, I forgot to write this dot state, this dot props. Okay, I'll pause this. I'm just gonna quickly fix it and upload it, and then we will continue this build. Okay, so that should be fixed. So let me hit refresh here. Now let me do hit a shift refresh. There we go, good. Okay, so as you can see, now it works. The problem was I forgot to put the word this. So it was grabbing, it wasn't passing this dot state into the right function. So it was a quick fix. Okay, so let's continue on. The rest should be pretty straightforward. Wait, no, wrong. That's me editing the source code. Cool. So we're getting the to-dos. So we have the to-dos. We iterated them. So the next step is just to create our button and input. So I'll go back here to our template. Add the input. Okay, type equals text. Since there's only one, I don't need an ID or anything like that. Cool. And then it's going to be a button. Okay, submit. Button. Cool. Save. So those exist now. And I'm going to want a property called this.input and this.button. So I'm going to put those in post build because every time it builds, that existing button input's going to get erased and be replaced. So I want to make sure that after each render, we reassign that button and that input into a variable. So I'm going to say this.input equals this.shadow root, because again, this is all has a shadow DOM. This.shadow root dot query selector input. There's only one input, so it'll grab that input. So I don't have to worry about more specific selector. This dot button equals this dot shadow root dot query selector button. So that just will grab the button. Great. Now we need to create a function that for the button. So that way we add a new to do. So we're gonna go here, add to do. And we don't need to pass anything into it. Okay, and basically what this will do is just do the fetch. So fetch, we put the URL in there, http:// localhost 4000. Then we have to pass in the object with all our details about how to make the call. So method is post. You've seen me do this pretty much in every video in the series. Method post, headers, and this is going to be content type, and it's application JSON that just tells our backend that we're sending over JSON data. And then last but not least, the body, which needs to be stringified, so JSON.stringify. And then I need to pass in an object with a property called to do. And the value of to do is going to be the information from the input. So it's going to be this dot input dot value. Okay, because this dot input should exist, because before we ever click the button, this has already at least run once, and it's going to run again after each re-render. So yay. So this dot input dot value. So that's neat. Okay. Oh, and then we need to do this dot then response.json. So we need to convert our readable stream that we get back as a response into JSON. Then we need to take our JSON and do stuff with it. And what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to do this dot set state again, and basically to-dos will once again just become JSON, and that'll update our list of to-dos. Okay, and then we just need to add the event listener. So make sure that, so we want to do that here, so that way the event listener gets added to the new button that gets rendered each time. So we're going to say this dot button dot add event listener. It's going to be a click event, and just to avoid any this issues, I'm going to pass in an arrow function, and all this arrow function does is run this dot add to do. Okay, and I think that should complete it. Okay, so let's take a look. Pulls in the list of groceries, laundry, let's get breakfast. And it gets added. Get lunch. It works. See? Easy peasy. It's not too bad. And again, great, we were able to fix one bug while we're at it. So this is called the MercedUI library. And basically it just kind of brings some little conveniences to working with web components. There's a lot of other stuff as you get that makes it quite robust. But if you just need the base element, Merced element, that's also available as a standalone library as well. So that way you don't need all the overhead of all the other stuff I have in there. So I think that's going to complete this series of videos of building multiple front ends. Yeah, so you guys have a great day. Enjoy. Thank you for watching this series and seeing me build the same application, I think 7 or 8 times now, in different frameworks and using different web component libraries. But thank you very much. Have a great day and enjoy.